Lil Bibby has always been vocal about the circumstances surrounding Juice WRLD's death, but now he's exposed shocking new details that have everybody talking. His revelation finally lines up with what Juice WRLD's girlfriend has been saying all along. You guys think he died from a drug overdose? You're wrong. I have got all the details. Let's get into it. The courtroom bombshell that exposed the truth. Okay, so let me break down for you what Bibby allegedly revealed under oath, because this is crazy. According to court documents and testimony that emerged, BBY's knowledge of Juice's addiction problems was far more extensive than he had previously admitted publicly. But more importantly, the decisions that were made with that knowledge paint a picture that's deeply troubling. And the thing is, BBY had actually hinted at some of this in past interviews.
Juice, like a week before he passed, he pulled me to the side, like, you gotta start coming around more. I miss how it was in the beginning, man.
This clip reveals something crucial. Juice was reaching out. He was asking for help. He was telling Bibby that he needed him around more. But here's where it gets real dark, and where Bibby's own words start to paint a different picture than the caring mentor narrative that was initially pushed.
So I tell him, like, Juice, you be acting weird, bro. I don't like being around weird people.
Hold up. Let me pause right there, because this is where you start to see the cracks in the facade. Juice is reaching out, telling BBY he needs him around more. He misses how things used to be. And Bibby's response: he calls Juice weird and says he doesn't like being around weird people. This is a young man who's clearly struggling, who's asking for help from someone he trusts. And instead of compassion, he gets judgment. But it gets worse. The court testimony revealed that BBY was fully aware of the extent of Juice's drug use. And not just aware, he had specific knowledge about the quantities and frequency that would shock anyone who heard it. BBY stated that he found out Juice was doing 4 Percocets at a time, which caused him to get to freaking out. Now, for those of y'all who might not understand the significance of this, let me break it down for you. 4 Percocets at once is an extremely dangerous amount, especially for someone who might not have a tolerance that comes with long-term use. This isn't recreational use. This is a kind of consumption that can easily lead to an overdose, and Bibby knew it. The story that starts to emerge from his own testimony is deeply disturbing. Juice was isolated, clearly struggling and crying out for help, and the person who should have stepped in, he pulled away. Bibby even shared other moments in interviews that hit different now.
He like, yeah, man, I know, man, I'm sorry, I'm just dealing with anxiety, and I said, bro, what the what is, I got anxiety too, what are you talking about?
When Juice explains that he's dealing with anxiety, Bibby's response is dismissive and unsympathetic. But then it gets worse.
But look, on top of that, anxiety, but you don't do no drugs, dude. So I got anxiety and I said, well, bro, stop doing the fucking drugs then. What the
Juice is explaining that he's dealing with anxiety and drug addiction, a combination that any responsible adult should recognize as requiring professional help and intervention. But Bibby's response is to tell him to just stop doing the drugs. The court revelations went even deeper, exposing business decisions that were made despite BBY's knowledge of Juice's condition. Reports emerged about how BBY arranged for Juice to continue touring and making appearances even when he was aware of the severity of his addiction problems. This testimony reveals that Juice was begging BBY to come on tour with him, calling him 6 times to ask him to come. This isn't the behavior of someone who's just being difficult or weird. This is the behavior of someone who's crying out for help, who needs support, who's struggling to cope with the pressures of his career and his addiction. But perhaps the most damaging revelation from the court proceedings was testimony about the financial incentives that may have influenced decision-making. The court heard evidence about the massive amounts of money that were being generated by Juice's career, and how those financial pressures may have affected the decisions that were made about his well-being. The controversy over the sale of Juice WRLD's catalog to Opus Music Group in 2022 takes on a much darker significance when viewed in the context of these revelations. If BBY and others knew about the severity of Juice's addiction problems, and if they continue to push him to work and tour despite that knowledge, then the subsequent profit from his music catalog becomes deeply problematic. The testimony also revealed disturbing Details about the final weeks of Juice's life. Bibby admitted that Juice had agreed to go to rehab, but said he would only lower his dosage, not stop, because he liked doing it too much. But instead of following through with intensive intervention, business continued as usual. The court revelations painted a picture of systematic negligence at best and willful endangerment at worst. The testimony suggested that people who were in positions of authority and responsibility chose to prioritize financial interest over a young man's life, and that decision ultimately had fatal consequences. Juice WRLD wasn't just another rising star. He was one of the most vulnerable. And what makes this story so heartbreaking isn't just how he died, but how many warning signs were ignored by the very people who should have been fighting hardest for him. But BB's testimony wasn't the first time people started asking questions. Long before he took the stand, fans and followers were already questioning the official narrative. And it all started with a jaw-dropping revelation from Juice's girlfriend, the testimony that shattered the official story. The first major red flag that got people asking questions came from the people who were closest to Juice, specifically his girlfriend at the time, Ally Lahi. Now, Ally was literally there when everything went down. She was an eyewitness to Juice's final moments, and what she's been saying publicly contradicts the official narrative in some very significant ways.
You guys think he died from a drug overdose? You're wrong! You're wrong! Literally, you're wrong! There's a lot of shit y'all don't know that I fucking grieve through myself while I let y'all grieve and talk mad.
Hold up. Let me pause right there, because this is huge. Ally Lahi, who was Juice's girlfriend and was literally present when he died, is saying flat out that he didn't die from a drug overdose. She's not just suggesting it. She's saying, "You're wrong multiple times," and claiming there's a lot of y'all don't know. Now, why would someone who was there, who witnessed everything firsthand, contradict the official medical examiner's report? Either she's lying for some reason, or there's information that hasn't been made public. And given the emotional state she's in during this clip, it seems like she genuinely believes what she's saying. The frustration and anger in her voice is real, and it suggests that she's been dealing with people questioning her or not believing her version of events. But here's the thing. If the official story is accurate, why would she be so adamant about contradicting it? But Ally's statement about the overdose aren't the only contradictions we need to examine. Her description of Juice's final moments also raises some serious questions about what really happened that day.
He looked at me because he didn't feel good, and he was like, "Allie, I don't feel good." And then he went, "Allie," and then froze the up and seized the out. And I ran over screaming and trying to help him. And no one helped. No one. There was one person out of all the people that were there that were able to help, not talking about the group that we were with, because they were handcuffed, so there's not much they could do. But everyone else that was there was only one person who helped me. It was a woman. I'm so grateful for her.
This testimony from Ally is absolutely critical because it provides details about Juice's final moments that we haven't heard anywhere else. According to her, Juice told her he didn't feel good, then seized up. But here's what's really disturbing. She says that out of all the people who were there, only one person helped her try to save Juice's life. Think about that for a moment. You've got a young man having a medical emergency. And according to his girlfriend who was there, almost nobody tried to help. Where was his management team? Where were the people who were supposed to be looking out for him? And why were so many people handcuffed? Now, Ally's revelations have sparked a whole wave of conspiracy theories and speculation in the hip-hop community because her version of events doesn't match up with the official narrative in some very significant ways. Let me break down some of the theories that have been floating around in the streets and online communities because the inconsistencies we discuss have led to some wild speculation about what really happened that day. One of the wildest theories that's been circulating is that Juice WRLD actually faked his own death. Fans point to his song Legends from 2018, where he rapped about not making it past 21, and the fact that he died at exactly 21 years old has people thinking this was all planned. Some people believe he orchestrated his death as some kind of final performance or social experiment. But let's be real here. This theory is reaching hard. The medical examiner confirmed his death was from an accidental overdose of oxycodone and codeine. They administered Narcan. He was taken to hospital, and he died on December 8th, 2019. Artists talk about death in their music all the time, especially when they're struggling with addiction and mental health issues like Juice was. This is where things get really dark, and it's probably the most serious conspiracy theory that's been floating around. Some people on Reddit and other platforms have speculated that Grade A Productions actually poisoned Juice to retain rights to his unreleased songs. The theory goes like this. The label laced Juice's pills. He said he would leave the label if he dies while under contract. You can do whatever you want the rest of his songs. Now, this theory has gained traction because of what we know about how much money was at stake. If Juice was planning to leave Grade A and start his own label, that would have cost him hundreds of millions of dollars. His death, on the other hand, allowed them to control his entire catalog and release albums for years. But here's the thing. There's no credible evidence of foul play in terms of poisoning. The toxicology reports and his documented addiction history point to accidental overdose. However, that doesn't mean the people around him are innocent of negligence or allowing a dangerous situation to continue.
Do a funeral in about like 15 years. You know how many homies that died?
Another theory that's been going around is about what exactly happened on that plane. The official story is that when police boarded his private jet, Juice panicked and swallowed pills to hide them from law enforcement. The seizure and overdose supposedly happened as a result of this. Federal agents found 70 pounds of marijuana, 6 bottles of codeine, cough syrup, firearms, and ammunition on the plane. So, there's no question that drugs were present. But some people are questioning whether Juice really took those pills voluntarily or if something else happened on that plane.
Do you ever feel like if you had spent more, instead of getting other people there, if you were like his day-to-day guy, that this wouldn't have happened?
That we haven't been told about. Given Ali's insistence that he didn't die from an overdose, some people believe that the pills were somehow administered to him without his knowledge or consent. This theory suggests that someone wanted to silence him or get him out of the way, and they use his addiction as a cover story. The theory that's gained the most traction in the hip-hop community is that this was all about money and control. According to this theory, Juice was becoming too independent, too aware of his own value, and too difficult to control. His struggles with addiction made him vulnerable, and certain people exploited that vulnerability for their own financial gain. This theory points to several suspicious facts. Plans for posthumous releases and catalog sales were apparently ready very quickly after his death. The people who allegedly failed to protect him have made hundreds of millions from his death. His attempts to get help were repeatedly dismissed or inadequately addressed. Key people in his management team weren't even in contact with him on the day he died. Some people believe that there's been an active cover-up of what really happened that day. This theory suggests that the official narrative about him swallowing pills to hide them from police was created to cover up the real circumstances of his death. Supporters of this theory point to Ali Lahad's contradictions of the official story, the lack of help he received during his medical emergency, the refusal of key people like BBY to discuss details of what happened, the inconsistencies in witness testimonies and timelines. This is probably the darkest theory, and it suggests that Juice WRLD was deliberately sacrificed by industry executives who saw him as more valuable dead than alive. According to this theory, young artists like Juice are seen as expendable when they become too difficult to control, or when their death can generate more profit than their continued career. While this theory might sound far-fetched, it's gained traction because of the pattern we see in the music industry, where young talented artists with addiction issues die under suspicious circumstances, and the people around them benefit enormously from their deaths.
Did you go to funeral?
Yeah. Glad you get me in my feelings, man.
Even in this simple exchange, you can see the emotion.
Aftermath and the questions that remain. The hip-hop community, Juice WRLD's fans, and even the general public have been left trying to process what these testimonies and evidence really mean for how we understand not just Juice's death, but the entire music industry's treatment of young, vulnerable artists. But before we dive into the aftermath, let me make something crystal clear, because there's been a lot of confusion and misinformation floating around. The official cause of WRLD's death remains an accidental overdose of oxycodone and codeine, as confirmed by the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. Nobody suggesting that BBY or anyone else directly caused Juice's death in a criminal sense. But what the court revelations have exposed is a pattern of behavior and decision-making that raises serious ethical and moral questions about the responsibilities that come with managing a young artist's career. The immediate reaction to these revelations was swift and intense. Social media platforms like Reddit exploded with discussions about Bibby's role, with many fans expressing feelings of betrayal and anger. The narrative that had been carefully constructed about BBY as the caring mentor who discovered and nurtured Juice's talent was shattered, replaced by a much darker picture of someone who may have prioritized business interest over a young man's well-being. 12:57/13/09. This clip becomes even more significant when viewed in the context of what we now know. Bibby admits that he doesn't usually go to funerals, even for friends who have died, but he went to Juice's funeral. The question that many people are asking is, was this genuine grief or was it guilt? 13:24:13, 38.